Bill Cosby's conviction on 3 accounts on the Andrea Constand rape trial. We have more news about what this conviction came down to, because it has been questioned by certain people in the wake of the Me Too movement of if the jurors were influenced by this in any way. And one juror, Harrison Snyder, spoke out on ABC's Good Morning America, and what he had to say was that no, Bill Cosby did this to himself. Let's take a look.
What was the evidence that made you sure beyond a reasonable doubt that he was guilty?
I think it was his deposition, really. Ms. Cosby admitted to giving these quaaludes to women, young women, in order to have sex with them.
So he did go on to say that it wasn't a cut and dry case. They were going back and forth a lot. But this case was different from the last Cosby rape trial last year in that 5 additional accusers were allowed to speak and help talk about what had happened here. Some people in the defense had said that this helped lead to categorizing a character who would continue to do the same pattern again and again and again to different women. But surprisingly, Snyder had something else to say further on in the interview.
When Andrea was on the stand, did you believe her?
Yes.
What about those other 5 women who testified?
Yeah.
If you hadn't heard from the other 5 and you just had her word, would that have mattered to you?
I don't think so, because in the deposition, he stated that he gave these drugs to other women. I don't think it really necessarily mattered that these other 5 women were here, because he said it himself.
So what he is getting to is that Cosby kind of damned himself by saying this all. The jury released a statement together saying, after thoughtful and meticulous consideration of the information and evidence provided to us, we came to our unanimous verdict. Not once were race or the #MeToo movement ever discussed, nor did either factor into our decision as implied in various media outlets.
That was interesting. I thought that interview with that juror really revealing, because I had thought, and we talked about the fact that it was important to include the testimonies of those other women to establish a pattern of behavior, to establish an MO, you know. But as it turns out, maybe the establishment of who Cosby was in terms of what he did, how he drugged women in the past, was all done in that deposition. So I thought that was revealing. I'll reiterate what I said last week, which is not so much related to this juror or the verdict, but it's related to the process. I just think what we do to women and how we have to demonize them and dirty them up and essentially deride them, run them down to the process, that as the only means of defending those who are accused of these things, it has a chilling effect. Women, of course, are less likely to come forward. And I just feel that should be underscored again. I don't like this process. I guess it's the only process there can be. But to have to come out and discuss these awful details of a horrible, violent act. I mean, these are women who were, knocked unconscious and raped. And then to have your reputation disparaged the way the process does, I just think it's sad.
Exactly.
But the right decision was made.
There was like a viral tweet about this too. It's like, how many women can you name from Bill Cosby's victims? Like, how many of them can you name? Can you name even a single woman's name? Like, can you? You can't, because women don't do this for reputation. When they come out, and it's an incredibly brave moment, and they finally face their rapist in this instance. Very publicly so. They're not doing it for reputation or for money. You don't get any monetary compensation out of it in a lot of instances. They're doing it for justice. They're doing it so that this doesn't happen again. In Bill Cosby's instance, he was very publicly talking about this stuff. There's a 1969 bit where he refers to Spanish fly.
Right.
This has been written about many times. I mean, the whole thing kind of started when Hannibal Buress used this as a joke in a set, which speaks to the power of art in many cases, the power of comedy even. Hopefully Hannibal Buress can do some bits maybe about the water in Flint, Michigan, or maybe R. Kelly. I don't know. There's plenty of people that Hannibal Buress could target next time. There's a lot that we can fix in our society. But all jokes aside, It's great that justice is finally being served. It's kind of crazy that Bill Cosby even admitted himself that he did this. Part of me feels like he did it. He admitted it because he was just like, I'm too rich to be hurt at this point. I'm too famous.
I think that's a really good point about his wealth and arrogance associated with celebrity. I mean, celebrities get away with a lot, and so he's got the fame and the money, and generally you can skate on everything with those two things with our judicial system.
Well, you used to, and I'm really glad that we're not anymore. I think it's crazy to try to discredit this with the Me Too movement, because the Me Too movement is about saying, yes, I've been abused and it's been brushed away because I'm a woman and I'm not to be believed for some reason, but I'm a person, I'm a whole person, and I have been wronged and I deserve to be heard. So I think it's weird that to try and discredit this case by using, oh, well, what about this movement about listening to women? Isn't it crazy?
But this guy who we just heard from, that juror, the 22-year-old juror, said he was only vaguely aware of the Me Too movement, which is another thing that's weird. Like, here's this huge movement going on in the country, and there are protests and demonstrations of support in major cities across the country. It's on every news outlet, and yet he's only vaguely aware of it. So, but be that as it may, to the point about Me Too, at least this juror wasn't really doing any calculus based on Me Too.
I think that speaks to whoever the jury lawyer who picked that juror was doing a really good job. Like, he literally found someone who was untainted by previous information about one of the most important landmark decisions with one of the most important, comedians of the past century for America.
I'm glad that Hannibal did this. I did see that stand-up routine, but I just wish someone had listened before Hannibal had said that.
2 easy ways to follow the Young Turks. One is hit the subscribe button down below, then you're a TYT subscriber. And second is ring the bell. And when you do that on YouTube, you're notified of our videos.